Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of Nightscape Live. Daywalker. This is the second time we've been on air today, so I want to thank anyone who has tuned in for the show for the second time today. The first conversation was really good about the policing and everything that happens on the police side of everything, and all of the very intricate things that are being basically ignored by police training. And it's so enlightening to see that there are cops out there that know how to handle things, and they exist, and they can train people. And our system, however broken it might be right now, can be fixed. It's just going to take a really long time. But speaking of broke systems, today it is this midship pipeline that's going through Oklahoma. It is something I didn't realize it was being that I knew that it was being built, right? I saw them building this pipeline through Oklahoma, and it was going underneath roads, and I saw this, and I had no idea really what it was. And when SUN-WED was on and showed us the pictures of the devastation that has been wrought upon ranchers and farmers all the way through Oklahoma, through eminent domain, is just despicable. Some of the pictures that we're going to show you today are shocking, nothing less. And I put some of them up yesterday so you could see them. And like there was even some dead cattle in those pictures, and it just brings home how much disregard that this company has in it. And today I'm going to have Nate Lapso on us with today. He's from Central Land Consulting. He's an advocate for all of the ranchers that are going, all the landowners who are going through a tough time because of this pipeline. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him in right now. You might have a little notification on your side to join Nate. There we go. Hey, Nate, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, it's been one of those days. So, when I first heard about this, I was totally shocked. I just, I've heard people have pipelines go through their land, and
Mhm.
I've never seen anything like this. I've seen like where they've gone through and cleared trees and maybe put some soil sterilant down on top of the pipeline. But I've not seen this to where they've just ripped everything up and basically left it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty egregious, especially in Oklahoma and some of these ranchers. You're talking 3, 4, 500 plus acres.
Mm.
Now, these are some big farmers and ranchers, and it's very evident that a lot of these farms have been destructed severely.
Yeah, when Zoe was on, she said I think she has 3 pipelines going through her
Hmm.
land, and she said they planted her wheat fields back. And that's not been the experience of, has it been the experience of anyone with this pipeline? I mean, have they taken care of anyone's land?
Um, there might there might be some areas where it cuts into a diagonal corner, the southwest or northeast corner of a small tract, a couple hundred feet. But
Yeah.
a lot of the right of way they built goes through the center of the farm, so that's where you get a lot of destruction.
Oh wow. I realized when we were talking on the phone yesterday, that I'd seen this thing built, and I said, "Hey, next to the road it looked pretty good."
Oh yes, yes, of course. It when you look and you go down, especially the main highways or Route 19 in Grady County, in those areas, you'll see it looks good for a little while, and then you'll start going down the side roads or the lease roads or the well roads, and you'll say, oh wow, is this the same pipeline?
Yeah, some of these pictures that I'm gonna put up on the screen here. is the only way that you can really get any kind of perspective on this. And let me pull this over to where it's zoom this out some. And here we go. All right, there we go. And move this little guy over here. There we go. I was telling Nate that there's the bathroom that's being redone right now. There's kind of like a little disaster, and well, I'm a little disorganized right now. But these first pictures right here,
Mm-hmm.
these are the ones that really shocked me. The fact that these irrigators were just totally torched through and
Yes.
destroyed so they could put this through. What drives a company to make these kinds of decisions?
Well, in this situation, this is in Canadian County, and in the beginning of the construction process, this was I don't believe this was an obstacle that was in their way. I think it was more of a, this was a condemnation tract, and they used eminent domain with this landowner as more of a tactic. The other pipelines actually almost paralleling right up to this pipeline went underneath this center pivot and never torched or destroyed this. So that kind of shows you how the other companies operated. They didn't even need to tear it down. I believe it was 10 years ago or so, and they just worked around it, or I should say under it. This company gave a 4 or 5 day notice and said, well, we're going to torch it and destroy it. And you can see there that not only the center pivot has been totaled and destroyed, but they cut the power as well.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
And when we were talking before, you said there is really no way to repair this, that the whole thing has been totaled.
No, we wanted to get the center pivot dealer involved. So we got one of the local dealerships, and he came out and he said where they have cut and torched this center pivot, it's not repairable. So
wow,
he has to remove the entire center pivot and bring in a new one.
Well, and the pivot being the key word there. I mean, this thing could have just been rolled out of the way, right? It was like,
yes, we were working on that. We communicated we were going to get the dealer involved. We're going to figure out how we can readjust and remove it. It's a little complicated because it's connected to another easement for wastewater, because it discharges, when this landowner has a pond for wastewater. It's a wastewater discharge pond, and that center pivot, when it gets too full, he sprays the water from the pond, and he couldn't, this one was a little more complicated. He just couldn't move it immediately. So we were in the process of doing that, but Midship was a little impatient, so they decided one day to tear it up.
oh wow. And it's like you said just a second ago, that other places have just dug under it, right? Like I'm thinking of pipe. This is something that can, just like can go this way. Is like, was there any reason to like a pipe that needed to go down like this, that it would actually be that big of an obstacle?
Yeah, that picture that you were just showing, that is a really low area, and there's the elevation. This is the lowest point, and he has ridges to the right that discharge stormwater to the left to a creek. And we tried to explain that to Midship and FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that regulates this project, ahead of time. And this is what you get. We tried to explain to them and work with them on this, but they said, no, we build pipelines, we know what we're doing. So there you go.
And is this the result right here of flooding? I'm guessing this is not a pond.
No,
that we're showing right now.
That area right where you see where the easement is and where you see all the water is Bermuda grass, and is never flooded like that ever.
Wow.
Yes.
That is just really, really incredible to see that. Just, I mean, I have Bermuda in my lawn, and it's not a grass that takes a lot of water, really. You know, it'll grow pretty much anywhere. And to be flooded like that, like you would never want a Bermuda field flooded that way.
No, no, they actually NRCS and USDA recommend, you know, water and irrigating your Bermuda when you know the process to get the production, but I don't think it's meant for that kind of
That's
water.
like for
So,
seaweed.
mhm.
Right. That's for kelp. What do we have here? With I saw this wood that's torn up. What are we looking at?
So certain regulations and certain requirements on these federal pipeline projects and other projects, they want them, the regulators would like the contractors to bring in matting, and that's what that they call them, environmental mats.
Is
And they're
that this right here?
to the left, they're where all the wood is.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they're basically like railroad ties and platforms for them to drive over in wet conditions for, in wet soils,
Mm.
to prevent any, adverse impacts or severe impacts to the soils or compaction. And they have so many environmental mats, thousands of mats, and it got so flooded, they're just scattered everywhere on the property.
So that's something that was their part of the land.
No, for construction purposes.
It is for construction purposes. Okay, okay. So that was so the tractors can get down and not sink, right?
Yes, yes. This is
Okay.
considered a floodplain area. I believe a partial floodplain part of this. So it was wet, and they knew that. So some of the
Yeah.
required measures, they want them to bring in environmental mats to drive over.
Wow.
Yeah.
That flooding is I was about to say significant. That doesn't that doesn't do it any justice. And
And I
yeah,
explained to you earlier on our conversation that just how the drone picks up, such a good picture and just says so many different things. I mean, you can see the area where the dirt is, where their easement is, and then
mm-hmm.
everything else is off the right of way. So if you look how big that area that the farmer is losing,
Mm.
and now he's got to do all kind of agricultural mitigative measures to, try to get that back.
Is sorry about that. That was my text going off there. Let me turn that off real quick. There we go. Um, is there any way really? I mean, like you said, that he has to do or him or her has to do a lot of work on this. Is there actually any coming back from the way it was?
Um, I believe they're on this track because they interfered with uh, the water table and did some did some impact to the soils, the rock. I believe they blasted on this property.
Mm.
There are certain things that the landowner's going to have to deal with that are permanent damage, but from what the landowner tells me, on that track that's flooded, it's going to take 3 years, possibly 5 years, to get back to his production. To produce
Mm.
that whole.
I know we talked some beforehand about soil, and is I'm guessing this is significant erosion that he's dealing with now.
Yes.
Yeah, how much? I don't know exactly how you would quantify it, but what's he looking at as far as losses of topsoil?
Um, this is a different track you're looking at,
Hmm.
with the tractor getting stuck, but you're referring to the previous track, the flooded property.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, yeah, this right here. I'm seeing where they did all the construction here,
mhm.
and is that like you said, it would take a few years to get back. Is he going to have to like bring new soil in to restore that?
The issue is there's a lot of issues there. There's a lot of the matting, spikes, rebar, shovels, all kind of stuff in the first couple inches of soils down to like 40 or 5 or possibly 50 inches of the soils. So we have to remove all the construction debris from the right of way area first, basically
Oh
dig it
my
up and remove
god!
that, and then you're going to have a lot of areas that have holes and have sunken in, So then we have to strip a lot of topsoil off the right of way in to level it out. So there's a lot of work to do on this tract. I believe the estimate we received recently was around a little over 11 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
For how much land?
That tract, you got to realize, I mean, it takes, we started trying to dig out some test holes and pull out matting. Well, these mats are 8 feet, 9 feet long, and they're just scattered everywhere. And they're very heavy. It took us just in a small area, like 2 or 3 days just to do the test holes to show Midship and FERC how bad it is and there's matting in there, because their inspectors are saying that all the matting has been removed, the property's restored. So we like to show them, well, we don't agree with you, and here's some facts, behind that.
Yeah. Let's see. So all of that's supposed to have been removed there.
Correct.
That doesn't look very removed to me.
No, anything 4 inches or greater have to be removed from the construction workspace. Right.
Oh wow. And I look, these picture of the tractors being stuck there. I'm guessing they're stuck because they're in a spot where they've never been stuck before and didn't expect it.
Yes, this is just showing you that the tractor was trying to cross over the easement to get to the other side, because you might have a 50, 60, 100 acres on the other side of the easement that is outside the easement that you need to farm and you need to spray and you need to take different agricultural mitigative measures. Well, they couldn't even cross over the easement. They can't even cross to, several acres, possibly several hundred acres of their own property. So then we got to bail them out by, getting other tractors or dozers involved and getting them out of the mud. That should never happen. And that is just, that really bothers me.
Yeah. I think you're being polite. I mean, this is like so somebody's livelihood here. That's, I mean, almost cutting. You could be cutting off half of someone's farm.
Yes.
By doing that, and that's just there's more pictures of the flooding here, and some of these like little videos that you have on here to show it. And I know that you're showing it because those not spots that ever have water in those areas, right? Correct.
That's the easement, and then parts of that are right off the easement, because it's not just affecting that easement area, it's affecting anywhere near the easement. And after a rain, that's what happens. I mean, this never used to flood, and a lot of these properties have either drain tiles or have drainage patterns or waterways that that's how they keep them dry, is they drain out and irrigate the properties have pretty specific irrigation methods and drainage patterns. But obviously there's some serious issues if the property can't be properly drained.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing not only are they taking such disregard with the land there, I can't help but notice in this video right here that these high voltage lines are here. And I mean, that could really cause some damage to their stability if suddenly they're in constantly flooded areas.
Those are some pretty heavy duty power lines, and that I believe is right by the Washita River. But I mean, if it's flooded enough, I guess it could do some damage. But also, I think access is a big problem right now. Like, that purple tractor you just showed.
Yeah,
that's another property where he's trying to cross over the easement, and you can clearly tell he's just sinking down and getting if you're getting your big tractor stuck like that, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking that is one stylish color.
Yeah.
I love that tractor. Oh, here is, I think maybe, here's some other, is this a different one, or is this the same one that we've been looking at?
That's the same one. I just wanted to get it. This is from the drone a little higher up, so you can kind of see how they just cut it. And they said, hey, we're just going to put this to the side and move on.
Looks like this area has been subject to flooding then, the way this soil looks right there.
Well, it's been subject to Midship,
It's been subject to midship. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You can see that. I mean, that's just how they left it.
Wow.
Yep.
That yeah, there's just it's like a train wreck
Yes.
looking through these, and that poor tractor. I feel really bad for that tractor in particular, because like in these sections, this looks like if you were to take this a little bit farther away and you didn't quite have the right size perspective, you'd think this was a river.
It's funny you say that because, we of course get a hold of the Army Corps and get a hold of different regulators and the congressmen. And when we send pictures, especially the couple that you previously were on, just so it looks like a canal or river or waterway,
Yeah.
they respond by saying, "Oh, no, 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 that pipeline was really close to a river. That's why it looks like that." We're like, "Okay, well, this is nowhere near the river. This is the easement." And they're like, "What?" So they're even the Army Corps is saying, "No, no, no, that's you guys, that's everything's fine. That's just right near the easement. The construction's right by the river." And we try to explain to them that's not the river. That's the easement. That's what we're trying to get across to you. There is no river right there. So they actually think it's a river. The Army
They
Corps
think
and
it.
everybody
They
else.
think. Oh my god! So, like, how far is it from the Washita? Is the nearest river, isn't it?
Yes, they HDD bore those sites. They'll have their workspace pretty far back and they'll bore underneath the rivers. So I mean, I think they crossed the Washita River multiple times, and there's multiple rivers and road crossings and highways
Hmm.
that they crossed. The bore sites I was concerned about, but it wasn't too damaging. It was more just the farmland in general and the condition they left it at. The way they left it. It's impossible for the farmers to successfully farm their property, produce a crop, produce hay for their cattle grazing. Some of these are specific uh, uh, special farms for native blue stem, and it takes
Hmm.
years to get their yields and their production back. So it's just really sad.
It is. Well, what is this we're looking at here? This almost looks like some kind of pipe, and maybe I'm just
Yeah.
misidentifying it.
Yeah, there's a good story behind this one. That drain pipe is a 15-inch outlet that is about 4,000 feet, I believe, south of this picture, and it's the landowner's drain outlet to drain into the creek. Sorry, into the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And Midship grabbed it and basically brought it all the way down to from the easement, 3 or 4 thousand feet, and put it across the easement, hopefully that the water can drain through it. So they used it to however they wanted to use it when it's the farmer's drain outlet, down by the creek.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Yeah.
so the landlord called me and said, "Hey, they're taking my pipe and using it as their construction equipment, basically." I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing."
Wow, man. Like, I was like, callous disregard is like the best phrase that I could think of for it. Like,
Yep.
that's just like, I mean, I want to think that, a lot of times, like, employers have employees do things they don't really want to do or something like that. But these guys have to be completely numb to it, to just do it like that.
Yeah. Plus, they want to, I'm trying to relay that the landowners need compensated to restore their properties. Obviously, the construction contractor is not capable in doing this much damage, and the landowners don't want them back. For the company just to compensate the landowners for them to try to fix it as best they can and move on.
Mm.
But they continuously keep coming back and trying to fix little things that really aren't doing anything, and it's affecting the landowners' access or the landowners. They're restricted if they keep on continuously coming back. And per the eminent domain, the landowners really don't have a say so. If they come back for the next 2 years, they can do that. So
Yeah, I want you to describe to everyone how the eminent domain works in this, because I think people have a vague understanding of eminent domain, but I want you to explain to how people really have no choice in this.
well, these projects start, and especially the FERC projects, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. and they go through a process of certain survey, certain environmental conditions. And then when FERC approves this, they have the right to use eminent domain.
Mm.
So if the Midship doesn't get a deal, make a deal or strike a deal or negotiate a deal with the landowner, they turn around and say, now we have eminent domain. If you don't take this deal, we're going to sue you. And, we have 100 to 120 landowners that, want to fight the fact that they should have some say so, and they have issues and certain requests and access issues and drain tiles and some of the situation that you've seen today, that they don't have a say so at all. And then they sue them. They have condemned them, and they have the right to start construction without even paying them any money through the courts, through the federal courts.
Wow. So can they start? So basically, the landowner could try to sue them, but while they're trying to sue them, they could be out there doing whatever they want.
Yes, they condemn their land, and they get a preliminary injunction to from it's the Western District and the Eastern District federal courts in Oklahoma to start construction, and later figure out through the courts what the justified compensation would be.
I hear people in Congress all the time. Well, I can't do this because of states' rights. I can't do that because the community has their rights and I don't want to do anything. But on this, they're like, oh, yeah, just go through whatever. This seems very broken, and like I want to follow the money on it.
Yes, I think the big thing is FERC. Out of all this, FERC has a compliance contractor that basically goes out and inspects. He's a compliance monitor that would inspect all the properties, and he reports on a weekly or biweekly basis. That is my biggest fight. Is what they're reporting is definitely not what's really happening. So that's why we file a lot of our reports, and I believe I sent you that Lydia Roper tract showing you just the soil digs, for instance, and the different soil comparisons. I mean, even FERC is signing off on saying that they're restored and they're in compliance, where you can clearly see that they're not. So that, I mean, we're not only dealing with Midship in this condemnation, but we're dealing with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to honor their FERC certificate and their approval. I mean, they're ultimately the ones that have approved this project. So that's a big problem.
And what is the incentive, for just an inspector to be so uncaring? I mean, is there like just no oversight?
The FERC contractor is actually, and I don't know why this is this way, but is actually paid by Midship.
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah, the FERC compliance contractor goes out and inspects the properties, but they are paid by the project sponsor, which is Midship, even though they're representing FERC and trying to inspect the compliance of the project.
Oh my God, the government at work. Give me a break, right? That's we talk about that a lot too on the show when like the government launches an investigation into another branch of the government. I'm like, nobody buys these internal investigation stuff where it's like, nobody expects it to be like honest.
Yes.
It's like this is the same thing. I believe these were the soil photos that you were referring to.
Yes, we try to file this to FERC and let Midship know as well. But we want to really be clear on not only the flooding and the obvious things, but what's underneath the ground. And they have to segregate the topsoil from the subsoil. And you can see on the right, that's a lot of the subsoil is mixed. They're supposed to have these certain compliance measures for this purpose. Outside the easement, you can see that we have almost 17 inches of very good soil. There's no mixing. It's a dark topsoil. And then when you get to the one in the easement, it's a little different. At 2 inches, you can see that big rock right below my orange marker. There's all kind of different subsoil layers, different rocks and different bedrock material and layers, subsoils, all mixed in. So
Yeah.
she lost her, she's going to lose a very high amount of yields and production because they didn't honor, their compliance measures.
Mm.
And back to the FERC compliance contractor, this could have been prevented. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to sell to them, that this could have been prevented if they would have segregated the topsoil and they would have restored the property to near its pre-construction condition, which that's one of the requirements. This would not be a problem. And this is a pretty egregious problem because for forever, she's never going to have to be able to match that undisturbed area.
No, there's no way. I have done a lot of digging just with my shovel in different places in Oklahoma, and I can definitely tell you which one is harder to shovel through. That one on the right, I would not want to shovel that.
No, it took me a couple hours.
Yeah, no, it's like all of those little bitty rocks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I'm kind of shocked to see the soil on the left that deep. Really,
Yeah.
a black soil like that deep. That's really impressive. That seems like that would probably be a rarity in this state.
Yes, and that's one of the tracks when I was referencing earlier, the prime farmland.
Hmm.
That is a huge designation from the USDA. The USDA actually has designated that tract as prime farmland, the best, highest use of prime farmland for soils, for water management, for cattle, for the whole 9 yards. And now it's just not a normal farm. That is destroyed. The soils are. So
Is this a before and after of the same location?
no, we basically, if you see the dates, we did these on the July 6th.
Oh yeah, I
And
see.
I used to go prior to the construction, but I think it's better so they're both dated the exact same date, that you do your
Yeah.
comparison to different seasons, you know, different types of weather. So we basically do it the exact same time, but one's off the right of way, one's on the right of way.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That makes sense. To do that as a strategy. This right here. So what are we looking at here?
So you'll see that this is in the easement, and they're rock fragments, and you can see that rock to the left there,
Yeah, this
a
one.
big rock. That was not supposed to be there. That's probably from somewhere in the ground, and I believe this is another blasting track where they blasted this rock. They didn't remove it all, and I don't have a tape measure on that, but I'm pretty sure you can tell that it's bigger than 4 inches. So,
Yeah, I would say so.
and I haven't even dug it up really, but you see the subsoil where it's the yellow or the gold color.
Yeah.
But from the first page, you've seen the pit outside the easement. You even mentioned how black it is.
Yeah.
That you can tell just all the way to the surface. It's mixed in with subsoil rocks and different construction debris, and that's what I was trying to explain to FERC.
Yeah. And what kind of response do they have when you do try to explain this? Because I mean, it seems like any idiot. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like something that should be that complicated. If you wanted to understand it, you could.
Yeah, they'll get a hold of us and say, hey, this property we verified, this property restored, it looks good, and then of course I immediately go out and do soil testing and digging, because I mean that's very excessive to go out and do it that way, but that's the only way I know how to do to prove, because you can't, you almost have to dig up the soils to prove to them that it's not restored, and then they say, oh, maybe this is an issue, you know. So then, but we have to make it to their attention, and I shouldn't have, on behalf of the landowners, have to prove that these are certain, mitigation agricultural requirements for them to honor. Why do the
Yeah.
landowners have to do all the proving and all the arguments? They should already have done this, and this could have been prevented, like I said. So
Yeah.
this compliance reporting is a big deal. It costs the landowner a lot of time, money, and production. And some of these farmers, they have a lot of clientele, and they can't produce that. That affects their businesses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can't imagine, how somebody must have gone out there. There must have been a farmer or rancher that had a pipeline that went through before, and
mhm.
they went, oh, okay, it's just like last time. and they go out their back door, or they're on their tractor, they go out there and they go like, WTF, what, what is this that I'm looking at? Has there been stories like that?
Um, in some of the other states where we're at, this has happened. I mean, and we
Yeah.
focus on the FERC products because that's what we know. But in a couple other projects that we're working on, it's similar, but this one is by far the most challenging.
Yeah. No, that's the next photo that I want to show here is these pictures of some rather unfortunate cattle. What is the story behind here? Have they died as a result of the environmental damage, or were they equipment, or what happened?
In this situation, I actually had our attorney from Washington D.C. with me, and we were going to meet the landowner to look at the property. And I thought when I started driving down the easement, because the road is not far from here, I thought this was silt fencing or some kind of matting or something they had down. And I
Hmm.
pulled beside it, and our attorney's like, "Whoa!" What? She like freaked out, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that cattle is dead." So the
Hmm.
landowner came out and believes that um, sometimes with a Johnson seed, which has high nitrogen,
Hmm.
just to get a quick, if something's not growing out in the farm or the easement, the company sometimes will put down a Johnson grass or a seed to try to get a quick vegetation to make it look like it's okay. And
Yeah.
if the cows get a hold of that, the landowner said within minutes they'll fall over, because usually cattle go to an area behind a tree, or they're shy when they are getting ready to die. They
Yeah.
won't go out in the open like this. So the landowner thinks it happened something very quickly. It had to be very potent with high nitrogen or some kind of toxic seed that they put down that they both fell over and died. So
Yeah, I know. It reminds me of like the cattle mutilation like photos that that people show, like from the aliens or whatever.
yeah,
And that's kind of what it looks like, just falling over like that. I didn't know Johnson grass was that deadly to
yes, for
cattle.
cattle very much. Yeah,
Wow.
it might have been other things, but the landowner is thinking that it was the Johnson grass.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. That's just like really sad just to
Yes.
see that, because I mean, I know ultimately we eat these animals, but just to see it, not even make it that far, and just die because somebody threw down grass because they just didn't care.
Yeah.
It's just very sad. What are these samples that I'm looking at here?
So these I when we do our soil pits and we do our soil testing, we'll pull out from the first couple inches, off the right of way versus on the right of way, instead of doing those pictures, just to show you very clearly what the differences are and if they look the same. They're supposed to be looking the same. They're supposed to be identical. The one on the right is the off-row sample. The one on the left should match the one on the right. But I think this is a really good, because it shows you in one picture, this is what it should look like to the right, and this is what it looks like because of what they did.
Mm,
And you can tell there's very little topsoil. It's mixed. There's rocks. There's a lot of different rocky fragments. So
yeah.
that's obviously anyone can see the color difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering, just because I don't know a lot about this business, and I know a lot of people watching don't. Is this the result of them digging down and just mixing all of that together?
Yes, they usually will take the topsoil layer itself, and they'll segregate that. It's called double ditching. So they'll strip that to one side,
Hmm.
and then they'll get into the subsoil layer, which we don't want to mix the two, and they'll dig or strip that to another side, or separate from the topsoil. So when they put it back, the subsoil and the deeper soils will go first, and the topsoil will be together going over top. So it should look like the one on the right, but
Even
because
if they've gone through and done this.
yes. Now there's going to be issues. I've been in the business for a long time. there's going to be issues with some minor mixing or some erosion or some vegetation issues, but these are very egregious impacts, very severe impacts. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought you were going to say. And after you describe how they get around that, it seems like so reasonable for you to. I mean, you're already digging it out. It's like you just put part of it over here and part of it over there, and this was just sludging it all to the side and then slamming it all back in.
yes.
Is this right here showing where the pipeline is, and then you've got the original soil on either side?
Yes, and actually, I believe I'm not mistaken, there's other pipeline right-of-ways in the past that are on each side. You can't even see them. You can't
Oh,
tell. If I pull up the maps, I believe either it crosses the area right here or it's beside it. So yeah, that picture there shows you how they left it. You can clearly tell that there's been impacts because it sticks out like a sore thumb. And I believe Zoe even mentioned it's like a destruction pathway, if you follow the Midship pipeline.
yeah. Like I've been telling people because I'm a big sci-fi fan. If in every movie there is that, or movie or TV series, there is that moment when the spaceship crashes into Earth and it just does this giant path,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this ditch behind it, and that's what this looks like. I mean, it's like I'm trying to find like the War of the Worlds saucers at the end of it, that's I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Like, it's just like shaking my head and saying, "Wow!" It's like I'm speechless at this.
Yeah. This picture, he tried to plant corn in the easement, and that's what you get when you plant it in the Midship easement. You can see that's just not there.
This was supposed to be cornfield.
Yeah, he planted corn there, and now it's gone. It's just not growing. It's flooded. That
Wow.
you can tell everywhere around that field that it's everything's growing, and looking healthy, but there's these low spots and these bad spots like this. I mean, from the drone, especially, just over and over these dead spots and these really, really rough spots. And that right there, I think is a really evident issue. I'm basically stringing from off-road to off-road to show you the grade levels, and if this is a flat property, it's almost 18 inches off grade. So the landowner has to bring in 18 inches. And I know we talked about this earlier about, how you're going to get topsoil, 18 inches of topsoil just to level out the grade in this massive area. I mean, that's a lot of money and a lot of good topsoil that you're going to have to bring in.
Yeah, that's like not even close. I mean, it's not like a couple of inches or anything like that. I mean, you're looking at 10 inches, almost 10 inches difference. It's like 18 to 8. It looks like.
Well, that's just the water. But if you look at the top, it's almost 18 inches of topsoil they have to bring in. Because I'm stringing it across.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just the water. They have to bring in almost 18 inches to level out that grade.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. That's even more. Oh, that when I was telling you beforehand, I'll put some new topsoil in my pecan grove back there, and it's not like the high grade stuff. It's like the cheap stuff at Lowe's, right? But I mean, it's like 50 pounds a little bag. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
that stuff is incredibly dense, and to bring it, I mean, like how many megatons of soil would that take?
Yeah, it's we go by the cubic yards, and it's literally thousands and thousands of cubic yards of topsoil. And that's
Wow.
really hard to find. And again, that property that with the corn, that is also considered prime farmland, designated by the USDA. So he has, I think, almost 20 inches of topsoil depths. So that's really affecting the farmers, and it's really difficult to deal with. If you think about it, that wow, this company sued me, condemned me, didn't pay me, didn't try to be reasonable with me, and destroyed my property. And at the end of the day, they're saying it's restored and there's no issues. I mean, that's really taking advantage of these farmers. And I'm trying really hard to show FERC and Midship and anybody possible this is a big problem. And
Yeah, to
it's
say
really
the
affecting
least.
their life.
to say the least. I mean, where do you even get that kind of quality topsoil? I mean, it was is must come out of state to get shipped in. I mean, what kind of logistics are they looking at to be able to even begin to restore that?
No, you know, after talking to NRCS, USDA, and they really think it's important to use the same topsoil in that soil series, like on that property. You want it local because different topsoil, even 5 miles away, could be totally different for what this property. It wouldn't be the right proper topsoil.
Mm.
So the only really true way to do it is to use and strip the topsoil from off the right of way to even it out, and maybe redo your grades, the farmers to redo their grades. But getting topsoil from importing it is very dangerous because it could, there could be pesticide issues, there could be weeds, there could be different soils, it could be subsoil, it could be different things that could affect, even have more effects. So we really are focused on trying to use the farmer's soil from that specific property.
So basically, all of this soil, it has been ruined, and there's no way to replace it.
No, again, if you strip other areas of topsoil and bring it in, you're losing topsoil there and the
Yeah.
crops. So there's no easy way. I mean, except we just got to bite the bullet and just take it as it is and just use some topsoil from that tract,
And
cause
then
more impacts and level it out.
yeah, and then like you run into troubles with the water table doing that too, don't you?
Yeah, and this is going to be a permanent loss until we figure this out. This is going to be a permanent thing. I mean, it's only going to get worse. I mean, in Oklahoma, our soil scientist has relayed that there's such high clay content. So he said you should figure out the next 3 to 5 years, a third of the soils settling, just because of the high clay content. It's going to settle, especially with that impact. So there might even be more topsoil in another year and a bigger hole. So it's just an ongoing battle, and we're trying to relay the severe, how severe this is.
Yeah. When you guys have reached out to Congress, has there been any kind of movement there?
Yes, we have communications with the House Committee on the House Committee on, what is it, reform, or
It's
the
it's something in reform.
yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
So, and the House Committee on Agriculture, and obviously the 3 congressmen in these districts. One of the congressmen has been very helpful. He's filed a congressional inquiry twice, and he's really working with the landowners, working with me on trying to get some of this stuff resolved, which has been really awesome. I mean, that means a lot to the landowners. The other congressman, we don't get any response, but at least we got one out of 3.
Yeah. Has there been any results from that with those two? Would you say there were two letters or two investigations?
Yeah, the congressional inquiries.
Inquiry, yeah.
Yeah, FERC hasn't responded to that yet, but we can see a big difference in when we have conversations with FERC, and it just really helps. It's not this landowner trying to make a quick buck, which I think a lot of people think that, and that's not the case. When the congressman relays, hey, they're having some issues here. They're showing us me this stuff. We need to get this resolved. It goes a lot. It's a lot farther. It's a bigger deal that way.
Yeah, even to get a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Now is FERC, is that under the executive branch?
That's a federal agency that regulates the natural gas. They regulate other resources, but this project would be it's a natural gas pipeline, and it's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
Okay, so I wonder, and I'm not aiming to make this like super political. I know you're just trying to help people, but is this something recent? Is this something that could be tied to the last 4 years, to where we've had this like an increasing level of disregard?
Yeah, I really think that the last probably year and a half, we really started noticing the issues, but it starts with FERC. I mean, like I said before, the big issue is if we can get some changes with FERC and regulating these pipeline companies, Not even so much as the eminent domain, but just just them inspecting, like we talked about earlier, the compliance inspections, and keep these companies accountable.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff wouldn't happen. You know, a lot of it could be prevented. So it's definitely could use FERC, and any the politics of this could be definitely changed. There could be pressure under FERC, to make some changes and get some good reporting to protect the farmers.
Well, it's like science and safety should never be political. Like those, like you can have fights over I don't know anything really. I don't know number two pencil sizes or or whatever, But like when it comes to keeping people safe and keeping their land preserved and everything, and I mean that's just science that comes down to that. I mean it seems like very basic science, but it's still like just letting that fly out the window. It's got to make these guys and gals feel pretty helpless.
Yeah, and the thing is that FERC is fully aware of this. I mean, we have the landowners call in, we relay this to FERC over and over and over, and FERC knows about this. I mean, you can see like that picture right there. You can see the easement clear as day. There's no doubt about anyone could see that where Midship put their easement through.
Yeah,
and it's so evident and so easy to see. I mean, just
fly over it, right? Yeah, I said just fly over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no way you're gonna miss it. The only thing that it seems to remind me of is just like when they put high voltage lines through.
Yeah.
And it looks like they just strip it all and then they come through every few years and cut all of it down. But there's no reason for a pipeline to have a stripe like that. I mean, if it did, there would be no soil in Oklahoma. There's pipelines everywhere.
Yeah, and that property you just were on, that is actually a native blue stem, which is a very, very it's a very complicated property because the native blue stem is a big deal, and that it could take years to get back. I mean, it looks like someone's just sprayed Roundup on it and it's dead.
Yeah,
nothing's growing. So this is meant for grazing. And it's, I believe he's had a native blue stem grass, big blue stem down for years. So
is this back here in this picture here? Is this anything to do with this pipeline, or is that like a crude oil thing?
No, that's a well pad.
Okay.
That they have drilled. This picture is just showing the Midship pipeline, and these are terraces. Terraces, you'll have multiple terraces that flow into a waterway, and this is just a drainage, technique and a drainage, pattern. Basically, it's a terrace, and they have several terraces. So when it rains, the water flows along the terrace and then goes into the waterway, and everything drains properly. Well, when it gets to the Midship pipeline, it's backed up and it's not restored right. So all the water in the field is being backed up before properly drained to the waterway. I don't know if you can see the waterway a little tiny bit. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Going down
right in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can clearly see the water in the terrace and then it stops right where the easement's at.
I mean, there's no debate there. There's just absolutely there's nothing that you could say that could explain that away. Is this another version of that right here?
Yeah, that's a separate terrace. That's backed up, and that's the same property. There's multiple terraces. I don't know if you can kind of see out in the field where you see a couple terraces going back and forth. A little farther out in the field.
Farther out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
can. But this terrace is not supposed to have cold water like that. It's supposed to properly, it's sloped just at the right percentage to the slope down, discharge into the waterway, and it's obviously backed up right where the Midship easement is.
Yeah, that's just absolutely ridiculous. And is this a closer view of what we were just looking at?
That is a separate property, I believe, down in where is that? I believe that's down in Bryan County, and it's just again the soil subsidence and settlement, and it's just these are flooded tracks. These tracks don't flood anything like this, and that's like the biggest problem when it comes to proper drainage. Is these properties can't drain anymore. I mean, if it rains, that farmers are out for days.
Yeah.
They're like, they want rain.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is during construction, and this is really bad because that kind of water and that kind of impact. And I think that when you go into a few more pictures, it shows how it's like there's like a waterfall. Yeah. Right
yeah.
there.
Okay. Yeah. There's the waterfall.
So you have it settling, and you have severe erosion, and it's slipping, and it's almost a permanent damage because it continues to slip and to continue to move even now that they restored it. Because that was during construction, but did not happen. That's not good.
I'm wondering if, like, 100 million years ago, if this pipeline didn't do something like, if somebody did something, that's how we got the Grand Canyon. Because I mean, that's what they're starting to look like.
Yeah.
To where it's just digging out. You'd have never thought. If let me do this for the audience here. Let's say you just saw this, and you didn't see any of the green on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever guess that was in the middle of a farm field? You'd look at that and you go, oh man, that must be a part in the desert where, it rains once or twice a year or something. Yep. And then you go out and you bring that in, and then you're like, oh my God.
I mean, look at all the hay up there he has outside the easement, all the a lot of hay. And you're right. If you zoom in there, then zoom out in that field, you're like, no, that couldn't be the same property.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look the same way. I mean, it looks like a bizarre dry riverbed, and it reminds me. Do you remember a few years ago when we had like the 40 days and 40 nights of rain?
Yes.
And everything was flooded. Like, I remember seeing that kind of stuff then. Like the Washita River was just everywhere down here because like between here and Tishomingo is where it goes through, and that road was closed forever. And then there was the Blue River was going over, and then you had all these creeks. I never knew the names of them before, but I was like, the Muddy Boggy. I got to go around it. It's like I couldn't take a straight line anywhere. But this isn't rain like that. This is just like normal rain.
No, that's why these properties do flood sometimes. But that's why they have drain tiles and terraces and drainage patterns. I mean, you can barely see drainage patterns, but just a little tiny bit of a ditch or a slope that goes into a river or water or waterway or some kind of waterway or terrace, and now it's not restored like it was prior.
No, not even close to restored.
Now, I will tell you, this property, they didn't leave it like that. That was just during construction, but it's still, I was just trying to show the impacts during construction that it has, and it clearly isn't restored currently.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they have any means, like when they are doing construction, any means of preserving some type of proper water flow when they're doing it, or is that just kind of like they can't take care of that while they're doing construction?
They have specific requirements to restore the grade, the contours, the drainage patterns, restoring the irrigation, drain tiles, water lines, all that. But they haven't done it.
Okay.
If it's a requirement, they're just not doing it. That's a problem.
Yeah. What are we looking at here?
We are digging up water lines, because when we get, when we talk to Midship or we talk to FERC, hey, we don't think the water line is repaired or connected right. So they say, oh, yes, it is. It's all restored. So we have to dig it up to prove to them, here you go. They didn't even connect this. They left it on the ground. They didn't even connect this water line. So no wonder why the property's flooding and they can't use their water.
Yeah.
So that's just proof showing that obviously the water line's clogged up and it's not repaired right.
No, that's how many inches around is that, just for perspective?
I believe that is a 4-inch or a 6-inch.
4-inch or 6 inch. Okay. And right here, it looks like you've got like a zoomed in view and then an outside view.
Yeah.
What is this mark that you're denoting there?
Well, that whole picture is a rock in the first, like, I believe it's like six
Oh,
or 8 inches, and then the other picture is showing how wide it is. It's like 33 inches wide,
okay.
to show you that it's, in the, like I said before, the requirements are anything 4 inches or greater. It's a little bigger than 4 inches. So
Yeah, okay, a little bigger. That and anyone that might be watching this isn't from Oklahoma. Oklahoma is plagued with these big rocks. I mean, like they're everywhere. To have land where you don't have that is like really valuable land
mhm.
because you can drive. I drive on these country roads all the time, and it might be suitable for some grazing, but like it's not something you could actively farm without ripping all of them out. And so when I see that, I mean, I realize how big of an obstacle something like that is. And 4 inches, yeah, give me a break. What is this right here?
That environmental matting that I referred to earlier,
Mm,
they have basically these tie rods and spikes that connect the matting together. So that's a very dangerous object when that's in the soils. When a farmer tries to farm their property, I mean, that would destroy, flatten your tires. That
yeah.
gets caught in the combine. If that gets caught in the tractor, the rotor, and that
Hmm.
could do some serious damage. And that's, I believe, like a steel rod. So
Mm,
this is the kind of stuff that FERC demands that they get out of the soils, and that's one of the environmental mats. They get
mm,
out of the soils, but we're finding this. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 inches deep, where they would
mm.
farm and till and produce in yield. So this is kind of showing you exactly what they just stuffed in the ground and didn't restore.
It's like a shallow grave.
Yeah, this topsoil is 27 inches deep.
Yeah.
And that's per the NRCS, and we have our soil scientist has verified that. But you can see that that kind of stuff was not there before. That environmental matting was never there. They brought that stuff in.
Well, yeah, railroad ties, not exactly a natural occurring
Those are
but
big
piece of
pieces
the
too.
landscape, you know.
Those aren't small pieces.
No, those are huge. And railroad ties are heavy. I mean, that's a big piece of lumber. Oh, this right here, is this some of those spikes?
Yep.
And then they how do they stitch those together? Are they horizontal? They go
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Then they'll put a platform. They'll have another layer underneath. Sometimes they'll have 2 or 3 layers, but they're all different sizes depending on what kind it is. But
Yeah.
they'll have, the ones we found in the ground still were 3 or 4 feet wide and 8 or 9 feet long.
Wow.
So those are heavy even for a mini excavator to get out.
Yeah.
But you can see the soil that we're not 6 feet deep. We're right on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, you just barely dug down to find it. And
Hmm.
was this just kind of like you guys went out there with a tractor and was just kind of exploring just to see what happens?
This is one of our testing methods that we use, where when FERC or Midship says they restored it and looks good, I do test holes.
Hmm.
And the landowner will help me, do test holes. We'll get a hold of Midship. We'll call the proper one calls,
Mm.
and we'll have Midship, operations come out and watch us, so there's no issues, so they're aware over in their easement, and then we'll dig to see if they restored the soils, which usually that's what we get when we do it.
Wow. So they're out there with you when you're
Yes, we
doing
like to
this?
have them present, so they're there and they know what we're doing, so they don't think we're digging up their pipeline or anything. And it is a
Right.
state law. We have to submit a one call ticket to notify all the other utility lines, and then have Midship, one of the operations personnel, present. We just think that's just to be safe, to have them out there.
Yeah. Oh man, that is just some mind blowing stuff right there.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff. you expect to see in like sub-Saharan Africa when or in Brazil or something when they've gone through and just destroyed everything
Mhm.
lawlessly. Like that should not be happening in a law-abiding country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these landowners are just wanting to farm the properties. They're very simple. If you ever talk to them, if you ever went to the properties, they're so simple, and they just want to be able to get back to farming and
Mm.
get their land back. And it's lasted for not, I believe 18 months that they've been on these properties. It should never last that long. It
Oh,
should be a
really?
6 month. Yeah, they continuously keep coming back and trying to fix certain things, but they've been out there since last January, February of 19.
I'm 19. Yeah, that's crazy. Uh, I, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's like I can't imagine when somebody like OG&E, Oklahoma Gas and Electric, right? They've got lines that go over my or next to my pecan trees, and I'm always out there trimming them to make sure because I don't want the butchers to come in because when they
Yeah.
come in, they just chop everything and
Mhm.
and they to completely destroy some people's tree. Like this guy had this really beautiful Bradford pear, and it had grown up, and admittedly, he should have trimmed it, but never did. And they cut a U out of it. And so
Oh,
it looked like a couple of antlers, right? It's like I'm always trying to keep them away from my trees. And to absolutely have no choice in it. And, it's like we talked about some of the compressor stations
yeah.
that, if I understand right, they keep the pressure up so the pipeline keeps moving.
Yes.
Yeah. And you said those were like 50-acre lots that they put those
Yeah.
down in?
It depends on where it's at, and what location they're in, and what the project looks like. But usually, when I worked on the midstream side, we would have like 50-acre tracts that we would try to acquire, and we just have a purchase. So they would try to purchase 50 acres and then build their site that way.
Now, purchase. Do they have a choice?
Um, yes, on that, I believe they try in the beginning to just purchase property, and landowners. Usually they would do multiple options. They'll have like, okay, if there's 3 or 4 or 5 options, option 1, option 2, option 3. Let's try to see which one we can close. They can close out, and then they would work with the landowners. But I believe on these, the landowners did agree on the purchases, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's like I know like it's I don't know. So it seems like sometimes with these eminent domain things, it's like somebody came in your house, stole your TV, and then put a couple of $100 on the table, to call it even. Then, right? And it seems to be like what they go through, and it's like farming is so separated from eating, right? It's like we don't think about it. Like I had a Caesar salad today. Somebody worked really hard to get that to me,
Yeah.
and this if you like grass-fed beef, I mean that's a lot of this comes from
Yeah.
here in Oklahoma. I mean it's a big crop. The hay crop is huge, and when it's happening just outside of what people see, they're never going to think about it. I mean, like, not to blame them for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like you're never going to see this if somebody like you and them that work together to take pictures of this and bring awareness to it.
Mm-hmm.
What can people do to help you?
I think for the landowners, they just want their voices to be heard, and just to relay to as many people as possible, and anyone that can, more voices. The more voices we have, is better, because I think other landowners that might are having problems now that we're not, able to work with, and we haven't worked with, or just the normal person that just the reality of what happens. I mean, the crazy thing is other pipeline companies aren't like this. I mean, when we call the one calls, other pipeline companies come out to the property and you'll flag their easement that crosses over the Midship easement, and they say they are not happy. Even other pipeline companies are, commenting this has given all us a bad name. You know,
Mm.
other landowners are going to think that's how all companies are. So other pipeline companies are even like, this is not right, because the landowners are all pro oil and gas pipeline. This is not a group of landowners that is, rioting and fighting and doesn't want any oil and gas. They promote pipelines, but not like this. This is just the wrong way.
Yeah. Is this company, is it, if I remember right, it's out of Texas, isn't it? Like out of Houston?
Yeah, Cheniere Energy.
Cheniere, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's we talked about them just a little bit when Zoe was on.
Mhm.
And because like my first kind of like gut instinct was, I was like, what company in like, Sumatra or something is doing this, you know what I mean? But I was like, this is an American company tearing up America.
Yep.
It's like it shouldn't be like that at all. You were talking about getting people's voices heard. Me and Zoe's campaign manager, it was one of the meetings I was in earlier today, are putting together a town hall for this. We're going to do some of it in person and some of it virtual, and it's actually, I was wanting to talk to you about it, to get the landowners in on this, because it looks like we're going to have, I think, 3 candidates. We're going to actually host them here and have them like socially distanced and everything, on a wide angle lens, and then we want to be able to have all of the landowners that want to participate in it participate virtually.
Absolutely.
And so we're working on that for like the next the 3 weeks from now or so.
Okay.
And so like any help that you can give them and give us on that, we want to get them involved. We want to get their voices heard.
Yeah, they would really, really, I mean, that would mean a lot to them. And, like I said, just getting their voice, their story, their farm, their experience out there
Yeah.
has a lot of meaning behind it.
Yeah, well, people are very emotionally tied to their land.
Hmm.
Usually it's multi-generational. Very rarely it's not. And like you said, they get a very simple, like, I wasn't asking for much. I just wanted to be able to use my land.
Yep.
Yeah. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on and showing this. If anybody's watching, please share this with people. This
Yep.
is shocking. It needs to be stopped. It
Yeah.
it just needs to be stopped. And I don't know how you would, like, I know you said, well, like $11 million for like a small piece of land to repair it and still never get back what you had.
Yeah. The thing that needs to be changed is this could have been prevented.
Yeah.
Just relying on, the Congress, congressman, whatever elected official to relay to FERC, that this compliance issue, and you got the inspecting these pipeline projects and these large impacts affecting these farmlands, there's got to be some changes, because if there isn't, this is just going to continue to happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's no reason, no reason to do it like this. Like, it's like I learned a lot about this just in this interview, but like the first thing I thought was like, if this is the way we regularly did things, it would be the Dust Bowl again in Oklahoma. Like there would be no good soil anywhere because there's so many pipelines that go through the state.
And that's not the case at all. I mean, like I said, there are numerous, some projects tracks have 6, 7 different pipelines, and you can't really tell, maybe a little bit, but this company and this product is completely different than the rest. So that's even more difficult to deal with.
Yeah, man, I
Oh.
know. Well, you're doing some good work there. If there's, and I mean this like seriously, if there's anything that we can do, you have updates, like especially between now and the town hall, you're welcome to reach out again and talk about it. And if we can repost anything for you on social media,
Mhm.
and do anything like that, I'm going to try, since with my day job's kind of crazy, but I'm going to try if I can get in touch at least maybe with one or two of the ranchers out here, maybe shoot a little footage on their land. If I can do that, I'd love to. And yeah, so it's time to get this changed, and we want to do everything that we can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but we appreciate you being on, Nate. All of your contact info, I think, you might send it to me one more time just so I can copy paste it real fast
Okay.
into the description. So when we get off here, it's not, I don't forget about it.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, I appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And well, everybody, thank you for being here for this. It is, this has been an informative day. I mean, it really has been going from law enforcement to lawlessness. I mean, that's really what that pipeline, that midship pipeline, has done, is just violated the law, not cared, and not cared who they hurt. I mean, really tragically hurting people. Um, eh, just, it's one thing to take your tractor, right, over your field and it's regular work. But to have it freaking sink, I mean, that's not easy. You know how heavy that shit is? You know what I mean? Like, there's no easy things for us. Does I keep running out of words for this. I really am. You guys know me. I talk way too much, right? When I run out of words, it's really gotten somewhere. There's no good reason for anyone to have to go through more hardship than they already do on their land. It is an overtime job to work on their land, and it is just it this can't go on. This has to get. No, this is going to become one of our big priorities here. I promise you. It definitely will. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back Sunday night. I'm taking tomorrow off. Get a little family stuff I'm doing. And I guess now I'm gonna go out there and I think I'm gonna mow my lawn. You guys have a good night. Don't let the bed bugs bite when you get there. Oh yeah, you know what? And the past doesn't lie, especially when it's in pictures. See you guys.